À toi, Max.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to our April 2025 webinar on MicroConcrete. My name is Max, and I will be your host this afternoon. I want to first welcome each and every one of you to this webinar. It's going to be very exciting. We're very excited to also share with you the many solutions of MicroConcrete. So we want to thank you for your time. We understand it's valuable, so the fact that you're here with us wanting to learn about MicroConcrete means a lot to us. I do want to point out there is a Q&A tab at the top. So if you have any questions as this presentation develops, please feel free to type in your questions in the Q&A at the top, and we'll have Erica and Simon online ready to answer your questions in real time. So feel free to use that Q&A as you wish. Want to tell you a little bit about Finitech before we get started on MicroConcrete. To me, it's very important to understand where a product is made and where it comes from. So Finitech was a company that's been established for well over 30 years. They are very well known and respected in the world of cleaners and varnishes for flooring, and that is both for commercial and residential. They also have a separate segment that is more catered towards the world of acoustics. Therefore, acoustic solutions definitely been more and more in demand, especially over the last 5 years with COVID. So it's a very important segment in the world of Finitech. They are also the face behind MicroConcrete. So MicroConcrete is looking basically for a seamless solution for modern surfaces that's durable, stylish, and endlessly versatile. MicroConcrete is a go-to solution for refinishing or resurfacing virtually any areas, from walls to fireplace mantles to countertops to showers. It's a thin coating that is hand applied, and it is giving you the appearance of poured concrete in a very nice way. What I want to be discussing with you today is going to be MicroConcrete as a whole. We're also going to be covering our colors and projects. We are going to be discussing where can I use MicroConcrete and some tips and practices along with resources that are available to you to support you with your project. So MicroConcrete, what is it as a whole? So initially what it needs to start with is Portland cement. Portland cement is going to be one of the most important key element into the formula that's needed to create MicroConcrete. So Portland concrete is very well known for being extremely durable, but it must be applied in a thick coating. In order to achieve MicroConcrete application, we need to change the formula. Therefore, some things need to be added to accommodate that. One of which will be polymers. So polymer is a big key factor in the ability to apply MicroConcrete in a very thin application. And when I mean thin, each coating typically will go with 1 to 2 millimeter thick, so ultra thin. The polymer reinforces the overall finished product of the concrete and will also, with the do apologize here. So yes, so the Portland concrete gets mixed with polymers and recycled glass beads. The polymer and the glass beads will just make your experience and application a much easier process. Therefore, those three ingredients are quite important. The containers, the way MicroConcrete will come to you, three different containers. We have our first one, which is a 400-gram container. This is particularly interesting when you're trying to select a color. So if you're trying to select a color, these little containers are an affordable way to do some tests at home. It's also a great container should you want to practice a little bit before starting your own project. We also find great use to these little containers to create your own blends of colors. And we'll be discussing that a little bit further in the presentation. The second format is going to be a 3.5 kilogram, which will cover 35 square feet. and that is per coat. This is going to be particularly interesting for small to medium-sized projects. And as we go on a larger scale, we do have an 18 kilogram pail. That one will give you roughly about 180 feet of coverage. So, MicroConcrete, how does it get applied? Ultimately, you have your mix bag that arrives to your home. It will be mixed with water. Now, this is where it's particularly important, is the ratio of water with your mix. So each 100 grams of mix will require 20 grams or 20 milliliter of water. So roughly 20% ratio for water versus your mix. Those two will need to be mixed together on site. So you will need a pail, a drill, and a standard mixer. And you'll be able to blend the two together until you get a substance that will be very similar to, say, a milkshake. So we'll ask you to mix it for a few minutes. You want to make sure to reach every corner of your pail to make sure everything gets and mixed together. And then from there, we'll ask you to let it sit for a few minutes. We'll ask you to blend it one more time for a couple minutes. This will really make sure that you get the perfect consistency and also will be the best way to apply it once you get started. You'll typically have about 30 minutes up to an hour to apply each coating. And we do recommend, especially if you're doing, say, a 3-piece wall, if you start one particular wall, we'd like you to start it from start to finish. Then you can take a pause. Then you hit your back wall for, say, that one you want it to start and finish it. We do not want you to take a break halfway through in between mixes. So it's always ideal to have a consistency as you get your product applied to your surface. So each surface needs to be done in one setting. So 20% water to your 80% mix. Once that's ready to go, you will have your application ready to go. So first coat, you have to see it typically as your primer base. It's an ultra thin coat, and you want to make sure you cover the entire surface of the area you're looking to cover, whether it's a floor entrance, a countertop, a backsplash, or the inside of a shower. Your first coat is basically your primer, and that's how it is best to visualize it. 4 hours later, you get to apply your second coat. And typically 2 coats is what you'll need, but you can often get away with 1 depending on the project. And you may need to get to a 3rd coat, and that's if you want to add extra relief or texture. But for the most part, you'll always be looking at a 2-coat process. So your first coat, primer base, ultra thin. This gets applied all by hand. We do also offer a trowel that's been specifically created to apply MicroConcrete. We'll get to that a little bit later. But your first coat gets applied. 4 hours later, your second coat will get applied. And this is where you truly get your art out. This is where you get to stretch and smoothen the MicroConcrete to the finish and the effect that you wish to have. So the trowel will be your best friend moving forward as you do the work. I want to move forward to the seal. So once you've applied your second coat after 4 hours, we'll ask you to wait about 12 hours, and then you get to protect your MicroConcrete. You'll have 2 ways to do so. We have a matte sealer and we have a wet sealer. Our matte sealer is going to be very different than the wet as far as how it works and how it marries with the concrete. So depending on the project that you're doing, we'll need to figure out which one is the best for your project. So the matte, to make it sort of in the most simple way possible, it will actually embed itself into the concrete, therefore becoming one with the concrete. So it is basically a perfect marriage where the sealer will actually embed itself into the concrete. And that means that typically 1 coat will be enough for your project. Now, matte, we will see this mostly lower traffic areas, accent pieces, pieces of furniture, vertical walls or accent walls, fireplaces. Matte will be mostly popular around those settings. The wet, on the other hand, will be slightly different. So your wet sealer is actually a surfaced application. Therefore, it creates a barrier between the concrete and anything that will be deposited on your surface. So you'll have the choice of 4 different coats to apply as far as your wet. Your first coat typically will give you that satin feel. The second and third coat will give you more of a semi-satin. And your third, fourth, you really get towards that wet look, really giving you a nice reflection, opening up spaces. So depending on the project that you're working on with the wet sealer, you'll need to decide whether you want 1, 2, 3, or 4 coats. 4 typically will be inside of a shower. That's where we'll require 4 coats of seal. Now, whether it is matte or glossy or wet, these coats need to be done 12 hours after the cement was installed and cured. And you will have 2 hours per coat. So at each coat, first coat starts, you wait 2 hours, you apply your second coat, and so forth. The important thing to remember is that the sealers all 4 coats must be done within a 12-hour period. So unfortunately, there's no give there. So you have to give yourself the day if you're going to be looking at 4 coats of application. Now, these sealers, of course, are water resistant. They're low in VOCs and they're water-based as well, which is a nice feature. I want to go to now sort of the process and procedures that are needed to apply your MicroConcrete. So first and foremost, we do want to establish, is this a new surface or it's an existing surface? So if it's an existing surface, which typically is very popular with MicroConcrete because it is a great resurfacing and will sort of bring back life to any existing sort of pieces or areas or accents, the process will be slightly different. So anything that's existing, mostly countertops, backsplash, anywhere there's been history or contact with chemicals or cleaners or anything like that, you will want to clean the surface. And for that, we have what we call surface preparation. Surface preparation ultimately will be your degreaser. It will remove any toxins or unwanted guests that are on your surface. This ultimately prepares the surface to apply your MicroConcrete. Very easy to apply. We recommend to just shake your bottle a little bit, find your pail, pour your surface preparation into the pail, give it roughly about 5 minutes to settle, and then we'll recommend using our applicator, just like so. We have a 6-inch and a 10-inch version, and this tool will be, from what we designed and developed, the best way and easiest to apply your surface preparation. It's also going to use as your brush. So imagine a countertop, dip your applicator, clean your counter just like you would normally do any countertop in your kitchen. Once that's done, you want to let it sit a few minutes, and then you want to give it a good wipe, and then a double rinse with a cloth and a water pail. By the time that's done and dried, you are now ready to install your MicroConcrete. So I mentioned MicroConcrete. Once you're ready, it might be a single, 2-coat, or 3-coat process. We'll focus more on the 1 to 2 right now. Your first coating, especially if you're working with tile on a backsplash or inside a shower, and I must say this is particularly interesting because you don't need to rip out the tile. So it's low demolition, low cost, quick investment into a nice upgrade for, say, a shower area. So your first coating will be applied. As I mentioned, it's going to be an ultra thin coat, kind of like your primer, where you will need to fill in your grout lines. You want to make sure everything is perfectly level to accommodate your next application. Once that's cured, and we give ourselves about 4 hours to start applying the next coat, you will go ahead and use your trowel. Now, Finitech has developed their very own trowel, and this is one that we really recommend because it was designed for this. It is full stainless steel, comfortable handle, and what they've done to make it easier, especially on the application side, is they've created a nice flex onto the trowel. So there is a 10-inch trowel, there's a 14-inch trowel that's also available, each with a nice flex. And I can reassure you, this is worth the investment, where you will be able to really spread your concrete or your formula nice and even, nice and thin, but will also give you the ability to push it down and to scroll it to make sure you get a perfect result. So we talked about how to mix the micro concrete. We talked about the prep or the clean. We've applied the micro cement, and we now are into the seal. And I skipped a couple slides. I apologize. So the seal, once 12 hours has been reached with your concrete and everything has been cured, you are now ready to do the seal. So seal is going to be a bit of the same as far as the surface preparation. We're going to ask you to shake it. We're going to ask you to bring it into the pail, let it sit for about 5 minutes. And then from there, you'll be able to apply your sealer. Now with this, we also recommend using our applicator, which is exactly the same tool that we recommend for the surface preparation. This one is going to be your best tool to apply your sealer. Now you can also do it by brush or by roll, but we do recommend this applicator. It works very, very well. You're also able to replace just the inserts. So it's a very, very nice product that works extremely well, especially with the sealer. It'll make sure you have 0 streaks and you get the perfect coverage and make sure you hit every area that's needed to be sealed. Within 12 hours after that, 24 hours, you're ready to go and you can actually hit on traffic. I want to get into some colors. So at Finitech, we have currently 7 colors, which we consider standard colors. So that doesn't mean that it stops there, but 7 colors to work with. Our first would be carbon. Now, carbon is going to be your darkest shade, definitely close to a black. You can also create some effects as well, as you can see on the picture here, but really good for, say, a bath area, accent piece in an entrance, back accent wall into a bedroom, as you can see, but this will definitely be our darkest shade. We have 3 shades of gray. We have your anthracite, which is going to be more of a charcoal feel. Really, really great for fireplace mantles, as we discussed, flooring for larger areas. We've also done a fireplace that was freestanding there. Definitely a nice color to work with for accents, especially in lighter areas. We have platinum, which is going to be your medium gray. Very, very flexible. Again, can be applied into a floor, to an accent wall, but that will be your medium gray. We will have aluminum. Aluminum, definitely my favorite. I feel like it's very, very flexible. It works on a huge amount of opportunities. We're talking shower spaces, whether it's a wet room, accent walls. Great idea for a old table, like we've done on this mahogany table at the top here. Aluminum, definitely one of the popular ones. Now, if we're looking for something more like around the beige tone, pearl is a very popular color for us. Definitely great when there's a lot of light in the room. Again, fireplaces, very, very popular. There's really no color that doesn't work around a fireplace, we found, but really, really great, especially in the kitchen area. We have ivory. Ivory is going to be our white, which we consider our white. Great, again, to add some texture. And as you can see, there's a lot of opportunities here, whether it's on furniture, accent walls, or again, any furniture. Arabica is our latest addition, which is going to be more of a mocha espresso feel. Definitely one of the latest colors, already getting a lot of good buzz, very popular on countertops. We've done a fireplace already, as you can see. So Arabica is going to give you more of that espresso mocha feel to it. So the 7 colors will give you a good sort of coverage for the most part, but it doesn't really stop there. So the beauty with Finitech and MicroConcrete is we now have the ability to create color blends. And for us, color blends is great because it opens up a huge amount of doors. You know, having 7 colors is great, but being able to do something on the spot is very, very great. So we came up with this 400-gram container for that. One of those reasons was for this. This will allow to basically come up with your own creations, your own blends of colors. So it's a 400-gram pail. This is where we'd recommend that you could purchase perhaps 2, 3, 4 different colors and work out your own blends at home. So if you have a little bit of time, it can be a fun project. Very important to use your scale. As mentioned, the ratio must be followed, and that is extremely important. You cannot add more water later. You cannot add more water in the mix. You do have to follow that 20% ratio in water. So as you're creating your own blends, you need to make sure you use your scale. If you do not, you can find them pretty affordable, like a standard kitchen scale, unless you get into larger projects. A little scale is fairly affordable, but will also be a great friend to you, making sure that once you figure out your ratio for your color blend, you can follow through with it after you've placed your order and go forward with that. But great little container in order to create special color blends. And we'll just look at a couple examples. So this is a perfect example of a mix. And this one was a third ivory, a third Arabica, and a third aluminum. I'm sorry, I can't read it on my large screen there. But this was a perfect blend that was created for a client that wanted something quite specific. And after time and trial, we were able to come up with this great formula and had a happy client. We have another one here, and this one is going to be 90% ivory and 10% aluminum for an existing table that was in the hallway. This really offered a kind of a unique look, taking that sort of ivory white and adding a little gray tone to it. So again, very, very flexible as far as color blends are concerned. This will be last one that we'll show, which is 90% pearl and 10% Arabica. So ultimately, what we're sharing with you is that it's almost sky's the limit as far as what you can do. Now, should making a color blend not necessarily be something that you're interested in, but you want the feel and the durability of the concrete, but you'd like to perhaps paint it, it can be done. So please get in touch with us if that's something that you'd like to do. We can certainly walk you through more information and what's needed to do so. I want to get into the applications and where can we use MicroConcrete. So, you know, to us, we often think, okay, MicroConcrete, where can I apply it? Is it safe? Is it going to work? Well, as I mentioned earlier, with combining our cement with the polymers and the recycled glass beads, we're able to offer something that is extremely durable, even though it's applied in a very, very thin application. But it will also adhere to almost anything. This is where it's really spectacular, is its ability to stick. And it will stick to not only existing, say, countertops, it'll stick to glass, it'll stick to tile. So it's a really affordable project to consider, especially when you're looking to stay on a budget. We're talking an entrance hall where you don't want to rip out the tile, a shower area, lots of work in ripping out the tile, most likely having to redo your drywall, rebuild everything, prep it until it's ready to tile, and then you would apply your MicroConcrete, where with the formula that's created, we can skip all those steps, and we can do so without even losing any particular space in your area. I mean, most specifically in a shower. We've seen a lot of times, especially on flooring, people see a floor, they'll add tile on top of tile, and they'll keep going. Every time you do that, you will lose some height. Same thing in the shower. If you were to retile on top of tile, eventually you're reducing the space of your shower. Well, by using MicroConcrete, it is so thin that you wouldn't even actually lose any space into your shower. So showers, very, very popular and a great cost saving, especially if you're looking to make an upgrade. Ceramic tile, very similar to the shower. No problem in bonding to it. As discussed, there is an additional layer of cement or microconcrete that we asked to fill in the grout lines. In the end, you want to make sure you have something very smooth and straight so that when you apply your concrete to achieve the look that you want, you will have something that is nice and even. Fireplaces, I think I pointed it out quite a few times. Lots of fireplaces. It is becoming a very popular area for microconcrete. It just adds a lot of texture. It's a great way to complement the fireplace. Yes, very popular for us. Walls, we talked about walls, whether it's an accent wall, a full-size wall, or an entire room for that matter. We've kind of done it all. So depending on what you're trying to achieve, walls, ceilings will be no problem. And one of my favorites as well, countertops, kitchen islands. This is a great way to offer a very simple solution that's cost effective without having to rip out your countertop or your kitchen island and having to rebuild a new one. Now, this is mostly all existing surfaces or areas. If you're going to build your own, there's no problem. Once again, we'll adhere and bond to basically almost anything. It will basically pass on the step of surface preparation. What I mean by that is you'll no longer need your sort of standard surface preparation step. You'll want to make sure, though, that there is no dust, that you vacuum your area carefully, and to make sure, again, there's no unwanted guests that are there before you start to apply your microconcrete. To show you a few before and after. This is, again, a good way to see how we can improve a particular room. This was one, for example, that the fireplace needed a small upgrade, and they went with microconcrete, and we can see the improvement that's done just on a fireplace. Second one is a great example of a bathroom that was redone. Clearly needed a little bit of help. Wanted to keep the budget low, so tiled stayed on, and we were able to redo the floor and also the walls. So really created a nice look where you could offset, again, the lighter tone of gray on the floor and going more of an ivory into the walls. So that really has given a really beautiful bathroom versus what it was. Another example of a bathroom that needed a bit of help. This was done onto the countertop and also at the base of the bathtub area. We have a more modern bathroom here where we're also able to do the countertop. In this case, we use carbon, really elevated also and put the accent on the sink itself. Really did a nice job there. Accent walls, again, entrance. This is a perfect example that you don't need to do an entire wall. Sometimes just a small accent is more than enough to create the impact that you're looking for. This fireplace, this was quite the statement once it was done. In this case, we had a brick wall in the back and wanted to make a change. Didn't really want to invest too much into ripping out everything once again. So this was a perfect, simple solution that really elevated the space, helped make it also look quite a bit larger. Another example of a bathroom project. This, I can't stress enough how amazing this solution is, especially when it's about just making a change into the shower or into the bathroom. Those costs can be so expensive. Often the tub can stay, the tile just needs to go. This is an amazing solution that is easy to do, and that's going to be very cost effective. And you can definitely see already, the change that was done. And this can be done in 48 hours, which is pretty fantastic. Another example of trying to save some money, entrance. We all have them. This particular one needed a change. The tile was outdated. It just needed to be changed. Again, if you don't want to rip it out, this is a perfect solution for it. Just a quick extra step. Well, you'll have your preparation, want to make sure everything is clean. Then you'll have your filler for the grout lines, and then you can finish your entrance in a nice modern look, as you can see here on the right. This is a good example for a bathtub. We see a lot of freestanding bathtubs out there. We've seen a lot of podiums before this, before freestanding tubs came about. You used to have to build a podium in order to create a freestanding look. This was a perfect example that a podium needed to be created for a bathtub and came out to be an amazing solution that was very cost effective and that made the tub look like $1,000,000. Backsplash. This is going to be sort of the same as the interior of a shower. This is a project that can easily be done. It can be done rapidly. It can be done at a very low expense. So, we often see subway tiles or what we see here. This is a very simple project that can be undertaken and can be done quickly with all the colors that we have available. Again, no need to rip out your tile. You can give a quick facelift to your kitchen by just changing the backsplash using MicroConcrete. We've got a sort of a wet room here, a full shower space with the bath. So we've done quite a bit of concrete in this particular project. Now this will be a wet room. Very important to point out, if you're going to be working with a wet room, obviously you want to follow all the guidelines that are needed to create that space. You also want to make sure that the slope is done the right way to make sure that no water will sit onto the microconcrete in any given space. So as long as everything is angled and catered towards the drain, this is a great solution that you can consider for a wet room application. Now, most of the projects that we discussed were mostly for interior. We have to let you know that MicroConcrete from Finitech can also be used on an exterior project. So in this case, slightly, a little bit more guidelines to follow, but as long as it's a concrete base, anything that's concrete that was existing, kind of like these steps that you see here, I think they've been there for decades. Well, 2 years ago, we just decided to work on these steps. And as you can see, the change is pretty stunning. We've turned some really, really old steps into something that looks very modern and up to date and keeping sort of the history of where these steps came from. So ultimately for outdoor, you'll definitely want to make sure that you follow the guidelines. Product needs to be installed between 10 and 30 degrees. We need to make sure we respect that. Ideally, you want a foundation or made of concrete. This will make it much easier to apply the MicroConcrete. So typically the preparation would be a power wash. Do a nice power wash on your steps and then go ahead and install your MicroConcrete. This will particularly be good as well for, say, a fire pit outside. We've done a fire pit a couple years ago, which looks stunning. It still looks great after a couple years, or even an outdoor kitchen. If you're doing an outdoor kitchen, you want to consider perhaps doing something unique on the countertop or on the backsplash where you're doing perhaps a pizza oven area. You can really open a lot of doors using MicroConcrete even on the outside. And we talked about the little container that's 400 grams, but you'll be also able to use our MicroConcrete for really small items. So even if it's perhaps a vase, a flower vase, as I mentioned, we can stick to glass, no problem. So the small bale can actually be a good enough size to redo a pencil holder or a glass vase or vase. So again, sky's the limit on where you can apply MicroConcrete. So I want to talk a little bit about tips. What are the sort of tools and tips that are going to be helping you with the project? Well, number one, we talked about the trowel. So the trowel to us is a simple addition. that's going to make a huge difference as far as how to apply. Buying it, mixing it is one thing. Once you get to work with the trowel, you want to make sure you have the right tool. This one was specifically designed for this. Again, nice flex on the blades, which allows us to do a really nice spread as we're applying the MicroConcrete. Also allows us to put some additional pressure to make sure we get a nice, smooth finish. So trowel definitely will help facilitate your application process. The applicator is also a tool that's going to be very important that we recommend to make your life easier as far as the preparation and your sealer application. So we have two sizes as well. We have a 6-inch and a 10-inch applicator, both of which also come with refills. So you can actually keep your applicator and just change your refills as you go on with your project. I also want to talk about a couple tips. I think I mentioned you have about 30 to 60 minutes to apply your MicroConcrete. One of the way you can reach that 60 minutes, and it's something that we recommend, is to have a damp towel that you can keep over your pail. So as you're applying your MicroConcrete, you can have your pail covered and make sure that it lasts as long as possible while you're applying onto your project. So we've talked about the trowel, the applicator, how you can expand the life of your MicroConcrete. A few tips as well that we can talk about is what kind of finish you want to achieve. So whether you want something nice and smooth and even, you can do that, of course, with the trowel. But if you want to add some texture or relief, it's a very flexible product to work with. And I'm sure you can imagine it almost like a cake. So once you've applied your icing, you can work with that icing and create relief and texture. It'll be the same thing with the MicroConcrete, where you can use different tools to create different looks. One of which could be as simple as pressing a sponge onto your accent wall, for say, and to create some texture. And we just ask afterwards to reapply your trowel and add some pressure and make sure you get a nice clean finish. But that will allow to go and get yourself some texture. For tricks, those are mostly going to be the main sort of tips and tricks that will help you with your project. As we move into your resources, this is where we can help you even more so. So with our website, if you go onto our Finitech website, you will find an expert. So should you be looking for an installer, we can help you facilitate that connection. So you'll be able to type in on the website your postal code. You'll be able to find your closest installer to your location. And then they'll be able to set up an appointment with you. Should you not find an expert in your area, please feel free to get in touch with us as well. We'll also try to facilitate and find someone that could perhaps travel your way. The website is also going to give you a where to buy option, which is quite nice. We have the online store, but a really great tool that's available now is going to be your 3D visualizer. So your 3D visualizer has been created to basically put you in a room. So we've created different style rooms, one of which is an entrance, another one is a bathroom, for example, and you'll be able to select your color and implement it into the shot. So you can really get to play with the different colors for specific room that will help you make your selection. I also want to point out on the website, you will have all your technical data sheets. So anything that's technical data, product information will all be available on your website, on our website, I should say. So whether it's about the MicroConcrete itself or your sealers or your applicator, you will have all the information that you could require on the website. And that concludes our presentation in 40 minutes. I hope I was able to answer what you were wondering about MicroConcrete. I want to thank you for your time. I think once you get to play with this material, you'll really get to see the unlimited amount of potential that this material will have. We are here to support you. If you have any questions, if you want us to help you through your project and figuring out what is needed, we're there to support you. And yes, we look forward to having the opportunity to work with you, and hopefully you get to try this fantastic material. It's truly great. And we're super happy that you got to be here with us. So I will leave you. There might be a few extra questions to answer, and we hope to see you on the next webinar for MicroConcrete. Thank you very much.